Welcome to another episode of Data Analytics Chat. I'm Ben Parker, data recruiter and podcast host, looking to share knowledge and insights with the data community. Today, I'm excited to welcome Anju Gupta, former Chief Artificial Intelligence Officer at Northwestern Mutual. In this episode, we'll explore her career journey, how she got started, pivotal moments that shaped her career path, and also a discussion on AI adoption. Anju, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ben, and I'm very much looking forward for our discussions.
Exactly, me too. Um, so I guess you want to start off with sharing your career journey and what inspired you into the field?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a great question. When it comes to career, I feel like I've lived in extremes all the time. And I would begin with literally my life journey that started out with most of my childhood, growing up, most of my childhood in a town where girls don't go to school, believe it or not. Loving math and going to school to solve mathematical equations had always been my passion. That passion remained and supported by my parents, my teachers, my mentors, that allowed me to finally pursue a PhD in genetics and statistics within the US, and that too at The Ohio State University. And I'm a huge Buckeye fan as well for those who know the tradition of The Ohio State University. And I got my first job as a data scientist almost 2 decades ago when the term data scientist wasn't even mainstream. I got a job as a data scientist for an agriculture company. And over the years, I've worked across insurance, automotive, agriculture, and chemical company. And what's been really cool about how I pursued my career is being able to see how each of those sectors bring unique challenges and opportunities for both data and AI. I have led teams, built data platforms, helped embed AI into operations. But at the heart of it, I've always been driven by the same question. How do we take all this data and actually make something with it? And what inspired me in my career is, that fundamental question of how you bring it all together is what keeps me going. It's the mix of tech, strategy, and leadership. It doesn't come on its own. When I pursued my degree and when I finished my grad school, I was really good at the technical stuff, but I wasn't good at being able to, bring leaders and align them towards the company mission. And I love being part of the shift that the companies are making and the shift that I had to make in being able to drive the agenda for where the company needed to go. And that requires very strong collaboration and a very strong influencing skill, which I learned throughout the years. So when I think about my journey within this industry, it has all come down to my initial interest into the field, which I was always driven by solving those mathematical equations early on in my career. And then the second part was learning how to be able to collaborate with people and when I say collaboration, it's being able to collaborate and influence. Those influencing skills goes a long way. And then the third piece is being able to see the outcomes of what you can all do it together and deliver to the best of your ability. What inspired your interest in the field? I do remember a pivotal moment, which was 2012. It was the Jeff Hinton era when, the image recognition algorithm became paramount for everything in the industry. And that's when I still remember I built my first AI strategy deck in 2012 and wanting to sell it to my leadership team, to my exec team as well, on why we need to invest now and what is that convergence of different sciences. At that time, I was working for an agricultural company. But what is the convergence of sciences that you can bring using AI and being able to launch commercial product out of it? So that has inspired me the most, especially the excellence of other leaders in the industry that has always been developing, the best in the world of the outcomes. And when I think about the generative AI moment that happened 3 years ago, it was a small group of folks sitting in San Francisco and in Toronto as well that came up with what we call the moment of AI in 3 years ago now. It's not even 3 years ago, moment of AI. And I was sitting somewhere doing my job at that time. But what really inspired me is understanding what is the shift that is going to bring to the future of many of us. So I learned quite a bit and understood what it is. So what inspires me is definitely the other thing is the learning of all of the things that we have been doing, and as humanity we have been developing as well.
Brilliant. So you're quite a visionary type of person.
I absolutely am. My friends, believe it or not, my close friends call me, and this is not a title, but my close friends call me a chief visionary officer.
We never know. It could be one in the future.
There's a lot of smart people who are writing the script and the vision. I believe in the vision for humanity. It's how do we adopt some of those excellence that is happening in the technical field, understand it to the best of ability, ensure that it's ethical, and start to carve the path for others as well. And I feel like some of us play a very strong role in that.
Yeah. And I guess you touched on a couple of interesting points. And then I guess there'd be a lot of listeners here that are in a technical capacity. And then you mentioned you wanted to influence and impact business. Going back when you were younger and at technical expert level, how did you overcome? Because there must have been a lot of fear going into this leadership, influence, the soft skills. How did you overcome this fear and challenges in your life?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I personally had to invest a lot into that because you're absolutely right. We are trained, some of us who have degrees in technical or have technical training, we are trained in technical science, right? Genetics and statistics, or any other field that you're in. You are trained technically, but you're not trained in dealing with people, and you're not trained in being able to influence the organization. I still remember when I joined my first company and I walked in the door thinking that, you know what, it was a small group. I was hired as a data scientist. I was the only PhD in that group. So I walked in with a hat that, oh, I know a lot more. And a week later, that's probably one of the best things that happened in my life. My boss walks in, and I hope he's listening. My boss walks in and he asked me, Sanju, I really need you to go out in the field and pollinate corn with, the labor that we had hired. And I'm like, seriously? Is this what you want me to do? Is this what you hired me to do? But I didn't tell him. I followed the rules. And I went to the field. I absolutely hated that day. And that day went up to the second day, and I did it for, I believe, 2 or 3 days. And it was hard. It was hot and humid, and you're in the field not knowing that this is what you joined the company for. But a day later, when I came in and I was writing my algorithm in what makes the best out of the product, I quickly realized what needed into the workplace to understand what are the things that others are trying to drive for excellence. And I built a whole lot of pursuit of excellence in me to understand what they're going through and how I need to think about it. So that was part one, is humility. I learned that quite a bit in the very beginning of my job. And then over the years, and I was fortunate enough to be working for a company where I was given an executive coach very early on in my career, who worked with me for almost an year to help me understand what influencing means. So for folks who are listening to this are early in their career, influencing is something, if you're trained as a technical person, influencing is a skill that I would say it doesn't come on its own. You have to invest time in learning how to influence the organization, how to build your leadership, how to build humility in being able to understand the things that you don't know, and being able to put yourself in a situation to be able to learn the skills that you don't have. So those are the pivotal moments early in my career as a technical expert, because I would walk in a room having all the facts rock solid, right? But then you are talking to a lot of experienced people, and when you're in the game of prediction, which is what I was in the game of prediction, and I could predict as well as a lot of experience. At that time, we used to call them breeders. They're still called breeders, but these are professionals within their space. I can predict very well what they are doing, but my prediction is not 100% accurate and will never be. And that's when the experience counts. So it's about me being able to sell the products that I believed in. And selling that product is not going to be facts only. Facts only will carry you up to the certain phase. It's about learning and understanding what's in it for each one of them. And how do you carry the room such that they are being able to come within the boxes that you have built for the influencing. So again, not to belabor that point, but as a technical expert, the three things that I think you need to have is resilience for sure. Not everything is going to work in your favor. But when I think about my own journey, I was born with literally when I grew up in my life journey, I had to have a lot of resilience, which defined who I am today. Then the second thing is humility for sure. Have a lot of humility. There's so much that we don't know. And especially in the world that we are going in today, convergence of sciences will lead the next phase of humanity, right? So there's a lot that we don't know, but how do we come together either through, AI assisted learning or with experts in the field is how do you learn the things that you don't know and drive towards the excellence for convergence of sciences. And the third thing is, I've said it before, is influencing, that it doesn't come naturally, but you have to work. If you're a technical expert, work towards it. That doesn't come naturally to us. That is something that you learn over the years. So the early you invest time into it, the better it'll become. And the reason that is so critical is because if you're a technical expert, there's so much that you know, right? And being able to get the room to read what you know and being able to drive your vision, influencing will let you deliver those outcomes.
And I guess there's a lot of people that obviously want to make the step up, but obviously there's this fear, obviously learning these new skills in their career. 'Cause obviously, it's completely different from being on the technical side. How did you gain or build confidence in this resilience? Because obviously, you're going to go through a lot of failure. Or failure is a strong word. I'll say a lot of learnings to get to this competent level, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when I think about resilience, it comes with you'll have failures. I feel like my career has been defined by the failures that I've had in my career. But anytime you have failure, you learn so much through those moments and let the failure define you. And I'm so serious. Let the failure define you for a day or two. That's about it. The quicker you bounce back, the stronger you get, and the the more impact you'll have in being able to shape the industry, whichever industry you want to go, or the transformations that you have been wanting to drive. So don't let the failure sink in for a day or two the most. Don't spend more time on it. Always think about what you have learned from that and how you come back up and learn from your mistakes, because I feel like the journey that we are all on, it's a learning journey, right? It's not a journey towards a defined destination. Your career track will never be a straight line, and I'm sure many people have told many people, even this audience as well, it's never a linear path. Your career is always be going to be a zigzag. It's how do you define that zigzag that is partly under your control, partly being at the right place at the right moment. And I can't stress that enough. Being able to right place right at the right moment, and your network. Invest time in your network. Your network will mean a lot as you help define what your future will become and what your future will look like.
Yeah, good. And I love the fact that whoever invested in you early in an executive coach is that's obviously probably shaped you really well. And I think a lot of investment in yourself is critical because there's a lot going on, especially when you're going into leadership. There's again, you've got to deal with the influencing, you've got to move into strategy. There's so much to learn, and I think if you can gain them skills at an earlier date, you're more. I guess you're more rounded, aren't you? You're more aware of what's to come, and you can be prepared for these challenges.
Absolutely. I think my company investing in me for the executive coach very early in my career has done wonders for me because I'll tell you straight up, I never thought influencing is a skill that I ever needed to learn. I just thought that I had it, and being able to get in front of the people with my facts and numbers will speak boatloads. But it does not. It does not. You'll have the numbers and the facts, but how you talk about those numbers and the facts, how do you sit one on one in trying to understand what's in it for them to believe in your numbers and facts will go a long way, which I had never invested time on. Now, when I think about me as a leader, I really invest a lot of time in understanding, what are they wanting to see, and what am I presenting, or what are the things that can help them, define those moments for themselves as well. So that carries a long way. Otherwise, you can have a great vision, you will not be able to see that through.
Brilliant. And I guess is there any other key moments that you feel shaped your career? I know you've touched on quite a few different ones, but anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah, I have had many key moments. One was definitely 2012, is during the Jeff Hinton era. I was still leading the data science team. And then that's when I was asked to build an AI strategy. And I'm like, seriously, what are you thinking? This was my previous CIO, who I was working with at that time. I was like, Anju, can you build an AI strategy? And I'm like, wow, that's quite a bit. We are an agriculture company, and I've been asked to build an AI strategy. That definitely was a defining moment, my career moment. I think a couple things that I would say that defined my career is, and I've mentioned failures for sure, right? But then I've been fortunate enough to have few sponsors. And when I say sponsors, I will differentiate mentor and sponsor. Mentor is somebody that you seek in, and I still have both mentors and sponsors internal to the company that I work in, and I always have external sponsors and mentors as well. I've had few sponsors, external sponsors that have been with me for almost a decade now. I can give them a call anytime, and these are leaders in the industry, right? But I've had sponsors, and I call them as sponsors because they fundamentally believe, they've always projected that they believe in me and they believe in my capabilities to deliver beyond excellence, no matter what I deliver at that time, right? So I have been fortunate enough to have had few sponsors, and sponsors they don't naturally come, right? They come in response to the work that you do, to the creativity that you put in the work that you do. You get noticed beyond, beyond influence. And if there are one or two very high level leaders, and I'm talking about if you're early in your career, if one of the execs, VP or so, notices you and gives you a hand, latch on to that, right? Because those are the sponsors that will give you very candid feedback on, they are in not for themselves, they are in it for you, right? So they'll give you candid feedback on the things that you're doing it right, on the things that you need to work on. And it's key to have few internal sponsors. Not I wouldn't say that I have had sponsors every year of my life, of my professional life, but I've had sponsors that have been vested in me and have helped shape my career in more ways than I can imagine.
I guess because I completely agree. I think if you latch onto someone that's been there, done it, look, it's of course it's just makes sense, doesn't it? And I think a lot of people don't probably either one ask for help or maybe two. don't think they need it when really I think if you should always be learning, in my opinion, because it's just you're going to get that. I mean, it's like reading a book, isn't it? If you get that one bit of knowledge that's going to transform your career, it's going to be transformative for you. How did you get these sponsors then? Did it was it like natural, just conversation, and you just kept building a conversation? Because I think a lot of people out there may want one, but don't know how about to get one. If you get what I mean?
Yeah, and sponsors, I would say, again, so I'll tell you how I got my sponsors, and then I can talk a little bit about how you can get sponsors. So in my career, I've had sponsors who noticed me after the work that I had been doing, right? Because at that time, when I was doing a work, I was invested to the best of my ability for the company that I was working for. I've been working for, I've always done that. It's if I am in this company, then I would do the best above and beyond what I need to deliver for the job that I have been given, right? That gets you noticed. I wasn't doing it because that gets me the next role. I may have been, mentally doing it for that, but it wasn't for that. I was doing it of because of my interest in the subject, in the topic, and my interest in delivering to the excellence. And that comes naturally to me. So I got noticed by the sponsors. I never seek sponsors, but when they noticed me and when they reached out, I took that opportunity. And I'll give you an example. There was one time, I have many, many sponsors, but again, when I say many, it's like probably five, right? There was one time I was doing a work for a marketing team, and I had delivered significantly well for that marketing team. Revenue was the revenue that they were generating from the algorithm that had pushed through was a lot, right? Then one day, the chief marketing officer, he literally walked into my office and he goes, Anju, do you have time for lunch? And said, yeah, sure. So it took me out for lunch, and I still can't. I wish I can name him. We still exchange Christmas cards. But he took me out for lunch, and it's all about, he taught me the skill of negotiating that day. And he said, we talked about many different things, but we talked a lot about negotiating skills because I was, at that time, somebody else had reached out to me within the company for another bigger role. And he knew that. And he didn't need to do that to me, but he walked in, we went out for lunch, and we literally role played on how I'm going to go negotiate for this new job. And that was a pivotal moment in my career. I had never thought about going to the chief marketing officer and talking to him. And this is almost 15 years ago, right? But since then, I have used that methodology on a number of times on how to think about negotiating, because sometimes, especially in females, I don't think it comes naturally to, and I may be generalizing, but not a whole lot of women will tell you, and I've heard it enough from a whole lot of women, is negotiating is a tough skill for them, right? But if he hadn't done that, I wouldn't have, learned how to negotiate for myself. So those sponsors, they come with the work that you do, and with the interest in where you're wanting to go as well, right? Mentor is somebody that you would seek out for navigating your path through a company. So I've had both mentors and sponsors as well.
Brilliant. I love that because it's just one conversation can actually change your career, and it's obviously helps you, isn't it? Just if you got to just do it. Like you could have said that day. You could have said, "No, I'm too busy. I'm sorry," but you've gone out of your way, had the conversation. And it's helped you, and I think it's that can happen at any time in your career.
Yep, yep, anytime in your career. And if not, don't wait for the moment. You can tell as you are navigating through, again, if you're, an early career professional, and if somebody is showing interest, seeing your work, then definitely reach out, create that opportunity for yourself, and you'll know whether the person you're talking to is your sponsor or your mentor.
Brilliant. So then, have you ever faced a major career setback?
As I said, many. I feel like my career has been defined by, um, s- I don't know what you call setback or failure. It's not about
Or learning?
Yeah, it's to me, setback or failure is not about losing a job or not getting a job. It's about many things, right? But I definitely see that a setback, and it's hard. I'll tell you, it's very hard. But I see every setback as a learning opportunity because there's something, whether it's unfair or fair, I least care, right? It's if you're going for a job and if you didn't get it, then there's something in the equation. It may not be your fault. It may not be the stars, let's say the stars, which is the horrible example, but the stars may not be aligned, right? But at the end of the day, you didn't get the job, right? So, what are the things to go moan over it for 1 or 2 days? Not beyond that. Not beyond that. You're far better than that, far better than that. And you should know that, which I always feel like I know that what I have in it me. If somebody's not giving me what I want, then purely their miss because I have so much to offer. Right. And the reason I say I have so much to offer because I am a lifelong learner. I constantly learn no matter what, not no matter where I am in my career. New things excite me. The things that I know, I always make sure that I am keeping that constant and not letting it go. But I learn a lot from early career professional as well. If you talk to my teams, they'll tell you that, early career professionals, they think about the world differently. They think about solving equations differently. So I do spend time with them. They are critical to helping define who we become as leaders as well. Because every generation, you have heard this, every generation is different, right?
Mm.
So setback and failure are a constant in every career that you'll have, in every life that you'll have. It's about what you learn from it and how quickly you bounce back from that failure and finesse the things that you're doing, right? And again, I'll tell you, my early career failure would be you wrote world class algorithm, nobody is wanting to implement it. Nobody is wanting to implement it, right? And you quickly learn that, you haven't learned what they were wanting to implement, what they were going after, right? So then you modify your methods, you modify the technique on how you're wanting to go after selling your vision. And again, there's things, it's easy to see things that are going wrong. It's harder to see things that are going right, and everything things that are going wrong, there's 100 things that are going right in your way as well. It'll be harder for you to see. And I would say shift your focus towards really believing in yourself and building yourself above and beyond what you already have.
Yeah, no, I really like that because I think it's flipping your mindset because you can easily go down the road like, I'm not good enough, blah blah blah. But really, or blaming the other people. Like I think if you everything if you don't succeed at what you do, it's always an internal issue. How could I improve? You've just got to twist the mindset, haven't you? Like oh, this didn't work this time. What could I have done better? And then take a learning from it because you can't succeed at everything in life. It's just part and parcel. I guess, like you're saying, like you need to just flip it as soon as possible and then progress.
Yeah, and absolutely. And one thing I would add, which I've heard from, I mentor a lot of early career professionals as well. So one thing I've heard from some, I wouldn't say many, or maybe they haven't told me, but they're probably thinking about it as well, is so and so is doing better than me. Right. That
Mm,
I hear it a lot more than I used to hear it before. And I think so and so is doing better than me is probably because of some of the social media that they're consuming. Is everybody is doing better than everybody else, right? But it's not about them. It's not about others. It's about you, right? And that's the message that I've been trying to hone in. Everything, grass is always greener on the other side, and that is so true. But it's not about the green grass on the other side. It's about you yourself and believing in you,
yeah.
right? Don't ever let others define who you are. You have to define your moment. You have to define your own. That is all in your hands. If you keep on thinking about so and so is doing better than you, then that's a hole that will be that's unhealthy, very unhealthy for yourself. And that will not that will not take you where you want to go, because then you are letting other success define your success, which is the most wrong thing to do.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. It's that comparison, isn't it? Again, yeah, like I said, you got social media, you got obviously a lot of lies, in my opinion, on that. But if you're comparing your lot, because your journey is completely different to someone else's journey, you might have had family problems, illness, and if you're comparing to someone who's had an easier career to date, of course, it's not going to be the balance right yet, but you just got to compare yourself day by day, haven't you? Like, if you how have you progressed? Keep doing that daily review, and then you'll get to where you want to be. But I completely agree. I mean, even I've done it in the past. Compare myself to my business is not where I want it to be compared to others. But again, you've got to be present, like with your situation.
Totally. And if somebody is doing better than you, it's worth learning. It's worth learning because they're doing something that you may not have done, right? But you have to focus on yourself.
Yeah, definitely. Brilliant. What skills have helped you stand out in the industry?
Yeah, no, this is a great question. So I like the fact that you think I stand out in the industry, which I do. I've got awards to be able to. I got the top 10 women in AI and ethics award last year, which came out of nowhere. It's from VentureBeat. And I was alongside Fei Fei Li in that award, and who is literally the godmother of AI. And I was so thrilled to see that. But when I think about, and that was again another moment that I truly, truly treasure, right? But when I think about the skills or traits, there's a couple things. One is, and the folks that I work with, or the folks that are in my team, or my previous coworkers will tell you, I drive for pursuit of excellence, number one, right? That is something that I'm personally driven for. If you're doing something, do it to the best of your ability. Pursuit of excellence is key in my mind. And I am a lifelong learner, which you would have heard as I delved into this podcast today. I learn the things that I don't know. I spend time in learning. And when generative AI came in, I knew narrative language processing or natural language processing, but I didn't know the large language model space. And what I ended up doing is I read. The amount of reading I did 3 years ago was insane. And I ended up writing a blog on, I wrote that for myself, but I ended up posting it as well. So that's learning. And now I'm reading about model context protocol, agent to agent. There's new terminologies that are coming in. So again, I have always learned through, so that has defined me who I am. And the third thing, going back to the chief visionary officer title that my friends have given me, is breaking boundaries. Breaking boundaries despite limitations, right? Because you got to understand the limitations that you have been provided. And within that, because every organization that you work in will have limitations, right? How do you bring along folks that are through that? Hello?
Yes, you're still here.
You can still hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
So again, understanding those limitations and then being able to break boundaries within those is critical, right? There's innovations happening everywhere. Innovation excites me. Innovation, be it in your own field or somewhere else, right? I learn about those. So those are the things that I think has personally helped me stand out in the industry.
Yeah, I love that. Cool. Oh, cool. Okay, let's move on to the data topic where we're going to look in, I guess, an area of interest for yourself, AI adoption. And I know you've obviously been heavily involved with this. So, what are the most common roadblocks companies face when trying to adopt AI and at scale?
Yeah, adopting AI at scale is multiple things. One is, so again, there's two different types of AI. One is, and there shouldn't be, but that's the reality on the ground. There's traditional and classical AI, which is your deep learning, machine learning, mathematical models. Then the generative AI, which is your language models that has hard time doing pure math, but now it's getting better. So to adopt AI at scale, there's a different for traditional classical AI, you have to get the business to buy in. And once the business is bought in, then you deploy those models, which is now built by a center of excellence within any company. So so that's the traditional classical AI model. For the generative AI model, adopting at scale is the things that comes in the way of adoption of AI at scale, because AI is an iterative process. It's not that it's once done, you deploy it and you're done with it. It's not a last mile delivery thing. It's constantly iterating. So you have to have an organization structure that is ready to adopt AI at scale. So that's part one, right? So that's the people part. Then you have to have the infrastructure ready for deploying AI at scale. Most companies don't have infrastructure ready for scale. And then the third thing is your technology. You have to have the right technological assets to be able to deploy these AIs at scale within the responsible and ethical framework.
And then, because obviously a lot of businesses are going through this and trying to, run before they can walk or crawl.
Yeah.
Why do you think so many people do face challenges doing this? Is it just lack of knowledge, or is it the lack of investment, trying to cut corners? What do you think is the main reason here?
Yeah, I think you have to have the right level of investment if you're wanting to do this. You have to have, the use cases, because not every use case will require AI. So you have to have the right use cases that can lead to the outcomes that you're wanting to drive, because these AI use cases, the AI deployment will lead to exponential value proposition for any company, right? But you have to have the right use cases within which you will deploy AI. Not every use case, as I said, will lead to the value proposition that you're wanting to go after. So lack of investment is one for sure, but having the right leadership who understands what it takes to deploy AI at scale. And most companies, I would say, a lot of companies today don't have the right leadership in being able to drive the ethical deployment of AI to extract full potential of what this technology can give.
Yeah, because I think obviously you've got leaders that obviously business focused, and you've got others more tech focused. And like even speaking to so many data executives, obviously a lot of people just go down the tech route, don't they? They're talking all. Like, I even had a conversation with one C level where he said it'd be great to have a conversation where you can't say any of the buzzwords like data bricks, generative AI. You want to be talking about growth and cost savings. That's really how business is going to succeed, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. So I always define, when somebody is looking for use case, I always define the use cases in three categories: operational efficiency, reduction of goods, and the third, which is the cost savings as well, and growth in revenue. So if you look at all your use cases, can you put those use cases into one of the three buckets? And once you define that, make sure the business is bought and make sure your CFO is bought, and that if it's an operational efficiency use case, then this is how much operational efficiency you'll bring in. This is how much, you know, attrition that you may not have to backfill, right? And then revenue growth. That's a key one. A lot of companies are struggling. When I say a lot of companies, I mean large enterprise legacy companies are struggling with the revenue growth equation, not the tech companies. They are using AI for their revenue solely. But your legacy tech companies, legacy non-tech companies, they're definitely using AI quite a bit for operational efficiency and cost savings, but not so much for revenue growth. So again, you'll have to define what those right use cases are. Make sure the business understands the value proposition, because business will be the one leading the deployment of this with an AI leader. So I always go with ensuring that business understands the value proposition AI brings. Because for you to extract value from using AI, you have to have the business bought in from the get go.
Yeah. And then, so you touched a bit on it. So, because I know businesses, there's so much projects they want to do. So, how do the leaders identify the right use cases that will deliver real business value? Also, you touched on a couple of principles there, but how is there anything else you could add?
Yeah. So one thing I would say is I'll give you the example that the approach that I use. I sit down with my business leaders, and so take any domain, and again I'll give you insurance examples. So within insurance, we have underwriting, we have claims, you have field, financial reps, and then you have compliance. So you have many different functions, right? And what I do is I sit down with those leaders and ask those leaders to bring their leadership team as well. And we host a workshop. We host half a day workshop, and the question that we ask is what are the and it's literally what are the questions you are trying to solve today or this year or in the next 2 to 3 years, right? What are the problems you're trying to solve? And then I have a matrix, which is it's a 4 quadrant, and it's low. One axis is impact, the other axis is complexity. So it's low to high impact and low to high complexity. And every question or every problem they're trying to solve, we put that into the four quadrants, which is low impact, low complexity, high impact, high complexity, and so on and so forth. And then out of those, if it's low impact, low complexity, the thesis is somebody's solving for those. 99% of the people within the company are solving for those. If it's high impact, low complexity, then the question is why is business not solving for it? Because it's low complexity, you'll be able to solve for it. Low impact and high complexity, do you really need to solve for it? And if it's high impact, high complexity, that's when you need AI. That's when you need more technical rigor or scientific formulations to be able to solve for this. And we take those use cases with high impact and high complexity that business comes up with. And then we iterate with them on the models that we'll be writing for them, or, either generative AI or classical AI models, and then identify what outcomes we are going after for that. So that is a prescription literally that I use across all my business domains in trying to identify use cases for which we are going to use AI. Again, as I said, AI is not going to solve for every problem, right? But it will solve for a high complexity problem. But you'll use that only where you see high impact for your organization.
Interesting and a great approach. So then, what triggers a company to move from AI experimentation to a full scale adoption then?
Yeah, so no, absolutely. I think AI experimentation will show you the value that you will get. So let's say if it's an operational efficiency use case, right? And you're bringing operational efficiency by transforming a portion of a workflow in claims, right? Which you showcased with only, let's say, 400 or 500 claims applications. But then you do the math and what would it take for us if we do that across 100% of claims, right? If that value equation looks great, then you move from experimentation to scaling. And when you talk about scaling, that's a totally different game, right? Because then it's not staying within a small AI COE team that is building. You need to bring the engineering, you need to bring the product managers, you need to bring the architecture team, you need to bring the business folks. If you're doing underwriting transformation, then you need to bring the actuarials as well. So there's a lot of people that start to come into the equation to make sure that the scaling happens at an organizational level that goes end to end with a system integration. And system integration requires a lot of effort. So, again, going from AI experimentation to scale requires a much more judicious approach. And that approach requires a very strong influencing skill across the organization for any technical leader to be able to drive the value proposition for what that use case can bring to the organization.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, and that's because things if you when as soon as you're adopting it, I mean, it's changes. Like change is the hardest thing for businesses because as soon as you change, everything changes. And then you're chasing your tail, and I guess being organised and keeping that your goal aligned to what you want because things are constantly going to change. And again, you got whether it's like again you touched on like the infrastructure, tech, people, that's all going to change. You got to keep going with the flow, haven't you?
Absolutely. And I think the moving from AI adoption, from AI experimentation to scaling, and I would say this, I don't know if I'm right or not, but it has to be a business decision. It's not a tech decision. It's a tech to business, and business needs to be bought in that, okay, I am ready, and this needs to be scaled across my entire domain. Once that happens, then it's easier to bring in your architecture team, your integration team, your privacy legal. How can I forget that? Privacy legal plays a very strong role, and your risk governance team plays a very strong role into the broad scale adoption of AI. Broad scale built of AI adoption is a different ballgame, and I'll get there. But adoption of AI is again, it's a mix of your AI team and your business team helping drive the adoption because AI is one thing that it won't come naturally with its adoption. People will start to adopt. I would hope to see a hockey stick curve with the Gen AI solution. I am starting to see a hockey stick curve of the adoption, not so much with the classical AI. Again, classical AI, your actual mathematical models, they stay focused within a small group of AI center of excellence teams, right? But adoption is quite driven by your business leaders versus your AI leaders.
So, what are the common mistakes companies make during this early adoption stage?
Yeah, multiple. When I think about the pivotal moment that we are living for the last 3 years, right? I've been fortunate enough with a company that actually saw and believed in being able to invest a lot more into capturing this pivotal moment and wanting to be a leader in the industry. That's not true for many of the industries. They're waiting for others to do something and then adopt. And I fundamentally believe that's mistake number one. This is the world of AI that we are living in today. That's becoming the fabric or the DNA of every work that we perform in the future. It's coming. It's not going to go away, right? So you got to jump on the bandwagon. You got to lead within that bandwagon. So that's part one. Part two is ensuring that you are training your entire organization to understand the value proposition that it makes, that it has, and let others play with it because it's not a thing that stays within the COE. Everybody can touch and feel. So let your people play with it. Your people who will come up with a lot more use case than you will sitting in one COE. So that's part two. Part three is the new AI. And when I say new AI, it's the large language model, the generative AI. The new AI is pressure testing the operating model of every organization, the operating model by which we deployed AI in the past. That's probably got thrown out of the window. The new operating model is there's a term that is coming up, which is your product engineers or your forward deployed engineers. Those are the people who will be critical. There's new job descriptions that are coming in for those engineers to take the lead because it's a lot more understandable, right? The times of, and I don't know, I could be wrong, but the times of writing those user stories for these AI products are will be gone very soon, right? So how do you pressure test your operating model by which you deliver outcomes will be key. And then the last I would say people are not paying attention to is your architectural patterns on how you deliver products in the future. Your architectural patterns that we deliver products in the future is quite sequential. right now because there's a way our software engineers deliver the outcomes, right? And your architectural patterns are based off of that. The newer ways of delivering AI is going to pressure test that architectural pattern because if agentic AI, we are talking about it right now, it'll become a thing of the future, and it has already become the thing of the future. A lot of workflow transformation will be. That's my prediction. I could be wrong again, but a lot of future workflow transformation will be driven off of the agentic AI. The technology is deep, the technology is intense, and the technology has a lot of potential, right? So ensure that you have the right leaders at the helm of it to be able to implement agentic AI, for which you require a new enterprise architecture. So that's something that people will have to hone in on. So all in all, I feel like, the when people are the most common organizational mistakes are not understanding what it takes to get people ready, what it takes to get technology ready, and what it takes to redefine and reimagine your processes of the future.
So then, obviously, you touched on it a minute ago. So how do you ensure that AI initiatives align with business goals rather than becoming, I guess, isolated tech projects?
But again, you need to make sure that, and I've said it before, you need to ensure that your business leaders are educated about that. That's number one. Number one. Make sure your business leaders are educated about the potential of this technology. So there's one thing that I've always done is I do a capability roadshow with my business leaders where my business leaders understand what are the capabilities that the new AI tools have. So if somebody is reading and filling a form by hand, AI can do that today. If you have a set of document, which is again, it's transcribed by a certain extent, then you should be able to autofill using the new tools and tech of AI. But your business leaders don't know that unless you showcase them the capability. So ensure that your AI initiatives are aligned with business goals. You need to make sure that your leaders are educated about the capabilities. And once they're educated about these AI capabilities that are fundamentally shifting how we have delivered outcomes in the past, then you will be able to help them align their goals because their goals, let's say, you can take any example, claims or call center or automating customer service requests, then they have got those metrics that they've listed for themselves. How do you embed AI to drive those metrics versus AI being a thing on the side? Right. So it has always has to tie in with the business outcomes and deliver to the best of your ability towards those business outcomes. With that, it will not remain an isolated tech project.
Right. So far, I mean, you provide this amazing advice, and I think people will learn a lot from this discussion. So, I guess the last bit of advice I'll ask for you. What advice would you give companies that want to adopt AI, but I guess lack internal expertise?
Yeah, which is a lot of companies, I would say right now. And they're leaning in. What I've seen is a lot of third party suppliers agreements have started to go up, right? There are experts out there. I personally work very closely with startup companies because I feel like I learn a lot from them, and they are the ones who are breaking barriers. So when I say breaking barriers despite limitations, learn from them. Bring your privacy and legal team and your risk team along. They are probably, I firmly believe that if you have a win with them, you'll have a win with a lot of startups as well, because startups are breaking the barriers. If you don't have external expertise, bring in one of them. And I have done that many, many times in the past where I have brought in startup companies, and that disrupts when you bring those startup companies, that disrupts your own internal make. Think about Microsoft, right? They did a massive agreement with OpenAI. They already had a very large AI team, but it allowed them to disrupt themselves. which is a hard thing. One of the asks that I have in industry today is only those companies will be successful where the CIO is ready to disrupt themselves, because the new AI, the generative AI, is coming in the way of how we delivered IT solutions in the past versus how we are going to deliver in the future. And CIOs will come in the way unless the CIO is ready to disrupt themselves. The it's going to come in the way of delivering value or extracting value from AI. So if you're lacking internal expertise, hone in your build, buy, and partner strategy. Define your guiding principles for what are you going to buy, what are you going to build, and what are you going to partner the strategic partner on. Once you define, you're not going to buy everything, right? Every vendor that you have in your procurement process has an LLM baked into it. But it could be what I call a 17th century LLM. So, do you really need to go with 17th century? So, you'll have to think about what is your buy strategy in the new world of AI, where every vendor is adding an LLM within their portfolio. And it could be a very old LLM. And then what is your build strategy? What are you going to build? Right? Because the innovation is happening, absolutely innovation is happening outside the four walls of any large legacy company, right? How do you understand what innovation is, build talent and train your talent so that you have a build strategy? And what is your partner strategy? And that is where the differentiation will start to come in. The faster you're able to partner, the quicker you'll be able to build product and build your talent as well. So again, those are the three fundamentals that I lean on to create differentiation and to be able to bridge the gap of when I don't have enough internal expertise.
Brilliant. I love that. And if I'm honest, yeah, I'm really impressed with your aura, your knowledge, and also your passion. I think you come across so passionate, Andrew, and I think that's a key skill to have, I think, today, because like when you go through them dark days where you don't want to do something, you're going to do it because you're going to force yourself through them times, aren't you?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Was there a question in it that I missed?
No,
Sorry.
no, 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 no. It's fun. I just want to say, yeah, thanks for your time. It's been a pleasure having you on.
Well, thank you very much, Ben. Thank you very much. I truly enjoyed discussing this with you today.